The Long Dark is one of my favorite survival games. I love the map and the variety in the different locations. The map is divided into different regions. The regions all have a unique combination of weather, shelter, and resources. In this video, we're going to be talking about, in my personal opinion, what are the best base locations in each region. If you're new here, welcome. If not, welcome back. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. All right, let's get into it. We are going to go through the list from left to right on the map. The first region that we're going to talk about is the Hush River Valley. This is one of the two hardest regions to start in. There is no man-made settlements or housing in this region. Your best bet here is caves. If I had to stay here for a while, I'd go to the bottom of the region and stay in the Valley Cave. It's the only warm cave in the bottom part of the region, and it is in a pretty good location. There's a rabbit cove nearby and a deer spawn close by on my last playthrough. Be careful though, I also had a wolf spawn close to the cave as well. There isn't usually too much hostile wildlife in the area, but you can randomly get a wolf spawn sometimes. There will usually be some items in the cave as well. When I found there was a light shell, a flare, trail boots, and a hatchet inside. There's also some coal located inside the cave as well. Next, we have the Mountain Town. This is probably the easiest region to survive in. This is the biggest town in the game. There are a lot of different base options here that you can choose from. There's some pretty good options too. The one spot that I like the most is the Paradise Meadows Farm. This house has a fireplace and a stove. There's also a lot of food located here. There's a lot of books and many different useful items for you to collect. There's also a trunk in the room that you can use to store items and a nice bed right beside the fireplace. Outside in the shed you have a workbench with a fire barrel located right next to it. There's a rabbit hole right outside the house as well, and cattail that's not too far away. Deer usually spawn in the field to the left of the farm. You're also fairly close to all the important areas in the region. This is one of my favorite bases in the game. Up next we have the Broken Railroad region. My favorite place to stay here is the Maintenance Yard. This place is extremely versatile, which helps to make it a good choice for long-term living. Inside you have a bed, a bathroom, a forge, workbench, trunk, toolbox, and many other places to loot. There's an office space attached to the maintenance shed that can come in handy. It's technically considered outside and it doesn't have a closed off entrance. You can hang out here if you need it to help prevent cabin fever. There's cattail located around the lake out back behind the shed. There's also a hunter's blind located north of the lake. Sometimes there'll be a core spawn here, and there's a cave located north of the blind. Alright, the next region up is the Furlong Musket region. This region isn't great for long-term living. There's no intact full shelter here, but there is a couple places that you could stay for a while. The best one though is definitely the old Spence family homestead. There are a couple metal containers in the area, and in the shed you have a workbench, forge, bed, toolbox, and some lockers. There's usually some pretty good resources to loot here. As long as you have firewood and the proper items, you can stay here for a while and craft. It is outside though, so you constantly have to keep the fire going to stay warm. You do need to be careful as you move around though. You can encounter wolves and a bear here. Up next we have Mystery Lake. This region was hard to make a selection for. There are a lot of decent options here for long-term living. This is one of the regions that I've spent the most time in. My favorite place to stay here though is the camp office. It's a pretty big two-story building with a bedroom upstairs that has double bunk beds and a stove in it. Downstairs you have a nice sized kitchen where you can usually find some food and a potbelly stove. It's in a nice centralized location and is pretty close to all of the important areas in the region. Mystery Lake is located right beside the office. There are fishing huts located on the lake and small cabins that you can raid all alongside it. There's also cattail and a rabbit cove in the area. You'll usually find a wolf or two patrolling the lake. This is definitely one of the top 2 or 3 base options on the entire map. The next region that we'll be covering is Bleak Inlet. This is a pretty dangerous area. There's a lot of thin ice here, so you have to be very careful traveling over ice. This is also one of the regions where you can find packs of timber wolves. There are also moose and a roaming bear that live here. The Last Resort Cannery is the best base location here. It's the main attraction of the region. There are a lot of different gear and food items that you can loot here. There's a trailer in the front that you can stay in. There are 3 vehicles outside that you can loot. There are also lots of lockers on the premises that you can find quality gear in. The inside-outside nature of the cannery also can help you stave off cabin fever. Next up is Coastal Highway. This is one of the regions with the most resources located in it. Once you spawn in on the Coastal Highway, you can get your backpack filled to capacity fairly quick. There's also a lot of good options for base here that all work out pretty well. My favorite long-term base option though is the Quonset Garage. This place is a gold mine. There are enough supplies and food in the near area to keep you living for at least a week. It's also fairly close to fishing huts if your food supply does run low. This is one of the best bases in the entire game when it comes to long-term sustainability. There are a lot of wolves in the area, and you can get a bear spawn here or there, so you do need to make sure you keep your head on the swivel. Alright, the next region is the Desolation Point. This is a sneaky good region. With proper planning, you can get a lot accomplished here. You do have to be careful though. There are always some wolves roaming around the area, and it is possible for you to get a bear as well. The best base location here is the Hibernia Processing. It used to be a whaling station. This is a fairly big area. There are 3 trailers connected together on one side and a single trailer on the other. The processing building is the main living quarters here though. The processing building is large with a second floor entrance to the front and a ground level entrance in the back. This is another great area to loot. There's a safe, workbench, and fire barrel on the first floor. Upstairs you have a staff lounge that has a few beds, tables, and chairs. You can usually find a heavy hammer upstairs, which is big because the Riken is pretty close to the Hibernia processing area, so you're not too far away from a forge and can do some good crafting. A large lighthouse is also a small walk away. Next up we have Paradise Valley. There are at least 2 or 3 good base options here, and it's the largest region in the entire game. My favorite is the Paradise Valley Farmstead. This place has everything required to be a great long-term base. It's in a nice central location in the region, being not too far from the community center area and not too far from the barn. There's also Rabbit Cove nearby and an area where deer is likely to roam. The farmhouse has 3 points of entry, including a closed-in porch, which has so many advantages that you can take from it. The porch can give you a safe place to hunt. I've taken out a bear with a bow from this porch before. You can also safely store cold food items here. The farmhouse has 3 levels, which means a lot of area to loot and also a lot of storage places for your items. The next region we're covering is Black Rock, home to the notorious Black Rock Prison. This is one of the few times you want to call a prison your home. This area is one of the more dangerous regions. It's one of 2 regions in the game that features Timberwolf packs, the other being Bleak Inlet. There's also a bear that roams around the prison and potential bear spawns in 2 other locations. This area has a lot of natural resources, but it also has a lot of predators. The prison grounds is pretty large with a lot of different areas to loot. There's a workbench located here, as well as one of the only 2 milling machines and ammunition workbenches. There are 3 vehicles in the yard and more in other areas of the premises. There's a small room at the front entrance of the prison that I like to store my items in. There are a couple of lockers here and a small stove. Next up is Timberwolf Mountain. This region is unforgiving, with really only one decent option for long-term living. That is the Mountaineer's Hut. The area features a lot of wildlife, including many predators. The Mountaineer's Hut is right off of Crystal Lake. There's a decent amount of cattail that's around the lake. There's a fishing hut located on the lake as well that you can use to get food by if you need. There's also a couple different rabbit coves nearby. Inside the hut you have a bed, stove, and workbench. There's a compartment in the ground next to the fireplace that you can use as a storage area. There's a hole in the front of the door, so in really bad weather you have to keep fire going to stay warm. Alright, we've made it to the last region, Ash Canyon. This is definitely one of the hardest regions to survive in. The weather is harsh and the region is almost entirely wilderness with really challenging terrain. There are gear that you can pick up here that isn't available anywhere else on the map, but it's a nice journey to get there. My favorite base location here is the Angler's Den. The cabin is small, but it features the essentials you need to survive. There's a potbelly stove, a workbench, storage trunk, and bed all located inside the cabin. Deer and a rabbit cove are usually located pretty close. It's also not too far from Bitter Marsh, where you can fish if you need more food. This is a bit of a dangerous location though, because even though wolves won't usually be too close to the base, they will be in the area surrounding it, which makes venturing out pretty dangerous. Well, there you have it. My favorite base location in each region in this game. If you made it this far into the video, please leave a like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you disagree with some of my choices. Alright, until next time, we're out. Peace.